Hi there, and welcome to my car configurations. Now, if you've been following along, you know that I love to do, well, car configurations on manufacturer websites, and, um, today I actually want to start something new with this, where I actually want to go through and talk about them. Now, I'm not going to be going through all of them in one go in order because I've actually tried that before and it's very tiring. Um, so I want to do these videos where I pick a few at random and just go ahead and talk about the few that do get picked and do various things of that, and eventually we will go through them all. Um, and of course, these videos will never actually stay to date because this is constantly updating all the time, and they actually so we can go through a section today, and it could have one added to it tomorrow. Um, and eventually we will get through them all, and then this will actually turn into a thing where maybe I will talk about new ones that get added. Maybe I'll even start that in the middle of doing these, but um anyways, without making this intro too long, since I have a tendency to do that, let's actually get through with picking some at random. So to do so, I'm going to have a wheel do it because I can't just pick them at random on my own. And the so essentially what we're going to do is there isn't a set amount of ones that I'm going to pick, but by memory I remember which sections are kind of small, which sections are kind of big. So if we land on one that I know is like really big, we might just talk about that, maybe a second one. And now that I think about it, I should actually pick one, look at it, pick another, look at it. That'll actually probably be a better idea than just picking a few and then looking at them. So it's and every time I go do it, I will shuffle it around, and after we land on it, I will delete it from this wheel. So just keep shuffling them around, and let's spin for the first one. And it looks like we're starting on Volvo Cars. So to remove that. So when something says cars, it's down here in the cars and minivan section, and we're going to Volvo. So essentially what I want to do with these is go through every car that's in that section and basically just talk about the config, why I chose what I did. Now that I think about it, I should probably be zoomed in a little more. Yeah, hold on. We go to editing. Just do fit. Yeah, let's do fit. Viewing. Oh, what the okay. Okay. So yeah, this is actually kind of a small section. So starting off here, we have the 2024 Volvo S90 Recharge Plus. Being the S90 Recharge, this has a 2-liter 4-cylinder that is both turbocharged and supercharged, and it is a plug-in hybrid electric powertrain. I like to call this tri-charge because if you have an NA engine with a hybrid system assisting it, I kind of do consider that still not naturally aspirated, even though technically it's still naturally aspirated. So I kind of like to call this system tri-charge, but yeah. So yeah, it's that system going through an 8-speed automatic and to an all-wheel drive system. And this particular configuration that I did came out to $68,845. In which of course this is in US dollars, and it all goes by, this is all after supposedly after destination charges and stuff. So I feel like some configs aren't and some do have that. I don't know, but I try to actually get a good price on these, or try to actually get like an accurate price on these. So yeah, this one comes in just under $70,000, and this is Volvo's larger sedan. Mostly went with that powertrain option because I I do I really love the whole thing of like this just twin charged engine, and also with it being a plug-in hybrid is actually really, really good system. The and yeah, overall I like the S90 here. It's just this big classy sedan that unfortunately Volvo's kind of going away from because of various reasons, but yeah, just this big classy sedan. I'd honestly really love to see how it actually is driving something like this. Um, so next, also I will say some of these I won't talk much about. Some of these I will talk a lot about. It's for if there's a lot to talk about. Which unfortunately, starting on Volvo here, I don't really have much to talk about them. Simply because I'm just not. I'm not trying to say I don't like them. I'm just not as into them as like some other manufacturers. Um, but anyways, next up here, as you can see with the same powertrain, the 2025 Volvo V60 Polestar. This is technically the V60 Recharge, except for 2025 it's not called the Recharge anymore. But given the fact that this is the Polestar variant, I did just shorten the name to V60 Polestar because that's what it is. The full name is really the V60 Plug-in Hybrid Polestar Engineered. That's kind of dumb. So again, same exact powertrain here. This one's actually a little bit more expensive, coming in at $73,235. Given this one has, well, the wagon shape, and even being a smaller vehicle, it's got all these extra performance components to it. And I really do like this one. I will say, unlike this might be a bit of an unpopular opinion, but I'm not typically, if I'm given a sedan option and a wagon option, I usually like going with the sedan myself. But in this case here, I do really like the wagon, and if I was actually looking for like a high performance wagon, I probably would go with like a high performance wagon today, which isn't really a big market anymore, even though it seems to be all there really is for wagons now. I'd probably go with this one because just really cool. And also because of the fact that all the other ones are in six figures at this point. Anyways, next up we have another of the 90s, being the V90 Cross Country Plus. This is again that twin charge 2-liter 4-cylinder, except this one is without a plug-in hybrid system. This is just the regular, just straight engine powering the vehicle. Though through the same transmission and all-wheel drive system, coming in cheaper than the other two at $61,745. And again, I really like this one. It's just this big fancy wagon. Also, as you can see, lots of brown with this one. I think brown exterior, unless that's like a weird shade of gray. And the brown interior. Something you might find is some of these cars I really like just having it be acres of brown. But yeah, V90 Cross Country. And yep, actually last up with the Volvo cars here, we have the 2025 Volvo S60 Core. So on the more average end, on the more normal, non-performance, non-wagon end of the 60, just a base model S60, with a a 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder, no supercharger mounted on it. Though again, for that 8-speed automatic and all-wheel drive, but coming in a lot cheaper than the other ones at $46,845. And if I was gonna go for a Volvo on like a budget, then this is what I'd go with, because it's still just a rather nice kind of smaller sedan. So yeah, that was Volvo cars. Let's pick another one. I forgot to shuffle it, but well, I'll do that for the next one. We're going to basically Mazda Miatas. So another really small section, Mazda in the sports and supercars section. Um, so this might be a bit of a controversial one for a big reason. So this is the 2025 Mazda MX-5 Miata Grand Touring. Like all Miatas, this has a 2-liter 4-cylinder and is rear-wheel drive, but this one, as you can see, is an automatic. It's probably a bit of a controversial thing with this, just because of the fact that it's a Miata, and it's just tiny little manual sports car. But I like the idea of having a Miata. Again, it's still this little tiny little lightweight, like drop top sports car, but also kind of just using it as a cruiser. Um, and yeah, I just like the idea of an auto Miata. I call it the auto Miata. And this one comes in at $36,665. Not the cheapest Miata you can get, not the most expensive Miata you can get, just kind of right in the middle. I do really love this blue color that they have. It was kind of a hard choice between this and the good old Soul Red Metallic. But I do really like this blue color. I especially love it in combination with the with this tan interior here, which I'm usually not big on tan interiors, but I really love how Mazda did it here with the tan also going towards the bottom of the dashboard and everything. The And also the exterior color, I think, is especially an important choice on the Miata, because of the fact that it's also partially your interior color, unless you get the base model, which this is not. So yeah, just a touring Miata with an automatic. But then down here we also have the I could have sworn I turned off Do Not Disturb. Okay, actually, you might not have even heard that. I got a notification, but now that I think about it, I turned off system sounds for the recordings. Hopefully, you didn't hear that. Next up here, we have the 2025 Mazda MX-5 Miata 35th Anniversary Edition. Once again, same powertrain, around the same price, except this one is the manual, because Mazda is unfortunately only letting people get the manual for the 35th Anniversary Edition. However, this is gorgeous, though. I love the color. I forgot what it's called, but like this kind of just darker metallic red. Mazda just makes such beautiful reds. The but like but like I just think this thing is just gorgeous. Like the color, the tan roof. Again, I'm not usually big on tan roofs on a convertible, but I think it really does fit here. Again, with the tan interior, which I'm not too huge on the combination of tan and red for here, but I do still really like the 35th Anniversary Edition here, though. It is nice. But yeah, that's already it for Mazda sports cars. Let's actually remember to shuffle it around this time and spin. And next up is Ford trucks. Okay, a bit of a bigger section here. Um, so yeah, now we're getting a bit of a bigger section. Um, so we come back up. So for trucks, that's of course the pickups and vans section right at the start here, and we're going to Ford, starting off with the 2022 Ford F-150 Tremor. Um, like all F-150 Tremors, this one is a Super Crew with the shortest bed configuration. I do actually wish that Ford made the Tremor with the just regular, like the super cab, like the regular, like extended cab and the middle-sized bed. I do really wish that Ford offered that. Someone actually made a 3D model of that, and I thought it was just sexy. Um, but I still like the crew cab as well. And this one has the 3.5 liter like EcoBoost V6. And like all F-150s for a 10-speed automatic, and this one has four-wheel drive. And this one came in at $57,035. This one is the standard package for the Tremor. This is a version of the F-150 Tremor that only lasted for a couple years. And essentially what this is, I mean, most of the changes you can actually see are in the interior here. Wow, that lagged when I zoomed in. And as you can see a lot with the Tremor standard. You have the cloth seats, you have a non-wrapped steering wheel, it's just a regular, plastic urethane stuff. You have the basic gauge cluster, same as like a base model, although the tachometer here is a little messed up for some reason. It doesn't actually come like this, it actually goes all the way around. Yeah, with just like your little screen, your actual gauges, the smaller radio display, and no heated seats or anything. Although you do still get a rather nice interior, in my opinion. But essentially, this is a version of the F-150 Tremor that it was like the standard package for it. And then, this was more meant to compete with stuff like the Silverado Custom Trail Boss. And it now quite a few of these were still made, I think, but I don't think this was super popular because Ford only ran it for a couple years, and then as of 2023, the F-150 Tremor already came standard with as kind of like a mid-level package, and this Tremor standard was gone, which is why this is a 2022 and I have not updated it. But yeah, I really like the F-150 Tremor, and of all Ford F-150s, of all modern Ford F-150s, this is, of the current generation one, this is what I'd go with. But next up for, because this is obviously pre-facelift, for post-facelift, well, you're going to see a few, but this is one. The 2024 Ford F-150 STX. This one, as you can see, is that super cab with the mid-size bed that I've talked about. This is my favorite body style configuration of F-150. This one has the smaller 2.7 liter EcoBoost V6 for the same 10-speed automatic and four-wheel drive, coming in at $52,845. I forgot to mention, but all of these prices are for when they were new at the time. So, I mean, it probably should be obvious, but I just want to point it out. But yeah, now this is the F-150 I would take like today, except like, of course, this one is now a couple years old, and but this was still available for 2025, and then 2026 they changed the STX a little bit, so I guess it's not the one I take today, but we'll see the 26 a little bit down. But I do really like this one too. In fact, it's actually kind of a hard choice between these two of which one I'd actually take, but I think I definitely would go with this one. I just wish they had this one in this smaller cab. They don't offer the 3.5 liter EcoBoost V6 with the STX, so that was a little bit of a letdown, but I'm perfectly fine with either the 2.7 or the 3.5. Quite honestly, to me, I mean, obviously I haven't really driven them, but to me, doesn't seem like it would be much of a difference apart from the fact that, well, obviously the 3.5 is a lot more powerful. Not much of a torque difference though. Actually, no, still quite a substantial torque difference, but I don't know. What I'm trying to say here is I wouldn't mind having either the 3.5 or the 2.7. The 5-liter V8 was available for this, but I honestly have a... I don't know why, I really like EcoBoost V6 F-150s. I just really, really like the idea of it. The... But yeah, this one, and I really like it. Next up for Ford, a little bit more silent, the 2025 Ford F-150 Lightning Pro with the extended range battery. Like all F-150 Lightnings, this is a dual motor electric setup. It is all-wheel drive. Coming in at $60,440, which seems a little steep for a base model, but it is an electric truck, and electric trucks are expensive. So this one, I do really like the base model here. I did consider, bumping it up a trim or two, but well, but I honestly am not a huge fan of the higher trims of the F-150 Lightning, because you go to the level up from this, the XLT, and you lose the extended range battery for some reason. Which doesn't really make any sense at all. So, and they used to actually offer the extended range battery as an option for the XLT, but not anymore. So, so to then get the extended range battery again, you have to go another step up to the flash trim, and then it gives it this whole like upright screen and stuff that I really don't like. I like this interior. So I actually like the Pro here. I like the lack of the light bars. I think it actually looks really good without them. The interior here, as you can see, everything is kind of basic. The plastic steering wheel, everything, no heated seats. Unfortunately, vinyl seats. I'm not the biggest on vinyl. I don't mind vinyl seats, but I definitely would prefer if this had cloth, which I'm a little bit confused as to why it doesn't offer cloth, because apparently there were F-150 Lightning Pros spotted with cloth interiors in the early days before it actually went on sale, and so I don't know why they never came out with that, but I'd be fine with vinyl though. It's just a little burning in the summer. But yeah, overall, I like, the standard Pro package for the F-150 Lightning, and I quite like the F-150 Lightning itself. It's really disappointing that the F-150 Lightning's already dying. Supposedly it will come back, but with a generator under the hood instead of a Funk. But yeah, I quite like the F-150 Lightning, and I love this base package Pro here. So next up, now to a bit more noise, the 2026 Ford F-150 STX with the Lobo package. So this one is a crew cab with the shorter bed. You can only get the Lobo package with that. And also with the Lobo package, you have to get the 5-liter V8. Although confusingly, you also have to get 4-wheel drive with the Lobo package, which I probably would take 4-wheel drive anyways. Even a lot of these trucks, I'd be fine either 2-wheel drive or 4-wheel drive. I choose 4-wheel drive for a lot of them just because of location. Simply because where I am, it's near impossible to find a rear-wheel drive pickup truck unless it's a base model. So unless it's a base model, I go with I always pick 4-wheel. But you do have to get 4-wheel drive for the Lobo package here, which makes no sense to me because it's a street truck. So yeah. And all of this, with all the options I chose, comes out to $64,100. And I think it's awesome. I wasn't a huge fan of the Lobo when they first showed it off, but it's grown on me quickly, and I especially think it looks great in this red color. It really did grow on me very quickly, and I think this is just a badass truck. I I do wish Ford offered the package. Since they made it a package rather than a trim level, I kind of wish Ford offered it on higher trims of the F-150 like the Lariat. Um, but I would still take the STX Lobo anyways, because I mean, as you've seen from my ones above, actually, now that I think about it, every F-150 we've seen so far has been some sort of basic F-150, so I'd still take it like this anyways. Um, but I do wish Ford offered it on the higher trims, because I've especially heard people say that they wish they could get a little bit of a nicer Lobo. But it seems Ford's trying to appeal to the trying to set the appeal for it to the lower end F-150 buyers, which I actually really appreciate, because, like, if you put this on the Lariat, it's going to be like a near $80,000 truck. And Ford easily could have done that, like they already do with the Raptor being very top end and stuff. So I actually do really appreciate the fact that Ford did this on kind of a lower trim, because they easily could have just not. But yeah, I quite like this, and yeah, I quite like the Lobo. If I was going for a 26 F-150, this is my pick. Next up, a little bit smaller, the 2022 Ford Ranger Lariat. This is a super cab with the 6-foot bed, which you actually can't get on the Ranger anymore. This is the 2.3 liter EcoBoost 4-cylinder, as this was the only engine for the Ranger at the time, and is 4-wheel drive, coming in at $42,005. And it is a rather nice Ford Ranger. I actually kind of bounced between Ranger configs when I was doing, like, Ranger trim levels when I was doing this one, because I was having a hard time deciding between like a base model or the Lariat, which the Lariat's the top model, but I ended up going Lariat in the end, because I think it looks great, the exterior styling here, the wheels, everything. And then the interior, while I'm not the biggest about the leather seats, I'm sure they are pretty comfortable though. I honestly really like the interior design, just the overall dashboard design and everything. I like it. This gauge cluster here, this is one of the last few Fords that have used this gauge cluster, is actually one of my favorite gauge clusters ever, because it's a screen on each side, and then just this analog tachometer in the middle. And the screen over here, oh no, not tachometer, analog speedometer in the middle. You can put a tachometer on the screen here. And honestly, I just really love it. Everything about this Ranger config right here, I really like. Next up, the 2020 Ford F-150 Raptor. This is unfortunately the only config I have of the previous generation F-150. Back when I had access to it, I didn't think to do more, because I was trying to just do one config per vehicle, and then when I started to actually do more per vehicle, I didn't have access to it anymore. But yeah, this generation of the F-150 Raptor. This is a configuration. This is a body a body style of F-150 you just can't get anymore. It's a super cab with the short bed. It's just like a stubby F-150, and I really love the body style. This is the twin turbo, or the EcoBoost V6, the EcoBoost 3.5 liter V6, 4-wheel drive, of course, coming in at $60,250, which, yeah, the Raptor used to be a lot cheaper than it is today. But yeah, I really love this. This right here, while this is not my favorite generation of F-150, this is by far my favorite generation of the Raptor. I really love it. It looks great, sounds great. interior is maybe not my favorite, but it is still a very nice interior. Just a very nice truck in general. At one point, this actually was my dream truck, and it's not really anymore, but I still do absolutely love it, though. I, I love the Ford Raptor stuff. Apart from the Bronco Raptor, I'll get to that when I get to the Ford Bronco in the SUV section, but, the Ford Raptor trucks, I just love them. I think Ford did awesome, just these Baja trucks, and this is definitely my favorite generation of the F-150 Raptor. I did opt for the actual Raptor tailgate here. Ford made it to where by default the Raptor comes with the regular F-150 tailgate, just has a Raptor badge on it, but I don't know, I think it suits the Raptor just having this big plate on the back that says Ford across it, which I've never realized until now how big it just says Ford across the back. But I do really like it though. It looks just awesome truck. Next up, let's go a bit bigger. The 2025 Ford F250 Super Duty XL. This is a super cab with the 8-foot bed, really, really long truck. And that's mostly because Ford for 2025 only, for whatever reason, for 2025, if you wanted a Ford Super Duty, that's the super cab, you had to get the long bed. And I don't understand exactly why they did that. For 2024, you could get it with the slightly shorter bed. For 2026, you can get it with the slightly shorter bed. I could easily, now normally I wouldn't pick the long bed with a cab longer than a regular cab, but I don't know, I kind of like it here. Because I know heavy duty trucks like this are just rather big. But, for whatever reason, the Ford Super Duties always feel the biggest to me whenever I see them. So having the longer bed almost kind of negates that a little bit in a way. I know it really doesn't, it just feels like it does. Yeah, it's I don't know, I don't know, that's just why haven't really changed it. The But yeah, I do still quite like the Super Duty though. Anyways, enough about the cab and bed configuration. This one actually has the base 6.8 liter V8. Not the more powerful 7.3 liter, not the diesel. It just has the regular gas 6.8 liter V8. I like my gas for heavy duties, and I don't know why. I think I'd go with this slightly small. The mini. Isn't this one called the Mini Zilla? I think this one's called the Mini Zilla because the 7.3 liter is like the Godzilla. So this one's the Mini Zilla. And as you can see, this one's actually a rear wheel drive, which I talked about the trucks with the rear wheel drive and four wheel drive. This is a base model. You can find a rear wheel drive where I am, so I let myself choose. I let myself choose the rear wheel. Mostly I chose the rear wheel. Well, the first one, silly reason, but the air dam, for whatever reason, four-wheel drive Super Duties have just this massive air dam in the front, and I don't know why. Obviously, that can be removed after the fact, but yeah. But the main reason though is actually an interesting thing with the front suspension on this, because this has independent front suspension. Now, The reason I say that's interesting is because heavy duty trucks, unless you get a GM truck, typically do not have independent front suspension. The Ford Super Duty here uh, typically always has a solid beam in the front, or a solid axle, yeah, whatever. But specifically on the F250 and specifically on the XL, because this is the only trim where you can get rear wheel drive, they developed independent front suspension for it. Why they did it for specifically this trim on this level of the Super Duty, I have no idea, but I went with it. But yeah, rear wheel drive. This one comes in at $51,665 because it's a base model, and I do quite like the interior of the base model here, what they did. I find this cubby hole kind of weird. Like, this is where, if we go up to the Tremor standard here, they moved the controls up here. They didn't for the Super Duty. Just kind of weird, but overall though, nice little basic truck. I did go with the cloth seats instead of the vinyl seats, but yeah, just a nice basic big ass truck. Um, but yeah, I still quite like it though. Next up here, the newer Ford Ranger Lariat. Once again, the Lariat more luxury trim level. This is in a crew cab short bed configuration. The only reason it's not listed here is because it is the only configuration you can get this in. And this one comes in at 53,698, went up quite a bit. A lot of that's also the engine though, because now you can get the 2.7 liter EcoBoost V6 in the Rangers, which is honestly really cool. I find this really interesting because, GM went to a four-cylinder for the mid-size. Toyota went to a four-cylinder for the mid-size. So then you have Ford here who saw that and was like, oh, okay, by the way, now we're offering a V6. It's like the other ones followed in Ford's footsteps with the Ranger, and then Ford just like double backed and brought in a V6, an even more powerful V6. But to be fair, this V6 is like equivalent with the four-cylinder GM is putting in Colorado, so do with that as you will. They are the same displacement, to be fair. But yeah, I do still quite like the new Rangers, not as much as the generation before it. Honestly, a perfect Ranger for me would be the generation before it, if it offered this V6. I do still quite like it here though. As you can see, I went with a tan interior in this. I don't know why, I just think it looks nice. I'm not huge on the interior in these. They're nice, but it's kind of a bootleg Ram interior. I haven't seen it pointed out all that much, but it is a bootleg Ram interior. But overall though, it is still a very nice little mid-sized truck here. I quite like it. I'm gonna say that a lot, that I quite like something. Okay, now we have a van. This is pickups and vans. We saw pickups so far. Now we got the van. So right now we have the 2026 Ford E-Transit Cargo. This is in the low roof, long wheelbase configuration. And it is a single motor electric rear wheel drive powertrain. And this one comes in after all the options added at $60,330. I quite like the E-Transit. It's definitely, well, for one, it's, I believe, the cheapest electric van you can get. I don't remember what the ProMaster starts at. But yeah, I quite like it as just like this electric work van. It's not really long distance, it only has a range of like 160 miles, like around there, give or take. But I do still quite like this though. You can only get it in the cargo van configuration, and also for some reason every E-Transit comes with the bigger screen, which is not my usual choice for the Transit. But yeah, I do still quite like the E-Transit though. being a cargo van, it is just this big empty like space back here. I did put the bulkhead here because I mean keep things a little bit less echoey in the actual passenger area. Um, I did go ahead and add the windows though, and this yellow grab bar thing. Um, but yeah, electric van. Not electric van. This is the 2025 Ford Transit 250 passenger van XL. So it is the base model. There's actually trim levels for the passenger van here. This is once again the low roof, long wheelbase one with a 3.5 liter V6. They do offer an EcoBoost V6 where it's not the same as the F-150, but just a lightly boosted version. I went with the NA one here just because the turbo one doesn't do much. 10-speed automatic and rear-wheel drive. They do offer all-wheel drive for the Transit, but I did not choose it. Coming in at $61,985, which I'm just noticing is actually cheaper than the E-Transit here, but then again, or no, more expensive than the E-Transit here, but then again, this is a passenger van. So yeah, essentially the same van except gas powered. Just regular Transit. Is that an EcoBoost badge? I will admit here, I did choose the turbo V6 at one point. At some point I changed it to the non-turbo, but I didn't update the images, and I'm only noticing now that there's an EcoBoost badge on the back. I'm gonna ignore that. Also, I guess I did go with the bigger screen, so I don't know what I was talking about. But yeah, this one is a passenger van, so I mostly went passenger van because you get the walls all covered up and stuff, and it actually does just make it a nicer van. Realistically, I'd rip out this row of seats, rip out this row, leave this one in, and essentially turn it into a crew van. Ford does offer a crew van of the Transit, except the crew van does not get the niceness of the passenger, so yeah. As much as, so essentially this just leaves all the nice cladding and stuff, and then essentially I'd probably use it as a camper van, except not like an overlander thing or anything, and probably not actually fit it out to be a camper, but rather just put a mattress back here. Actually, no, not even a mattress, just cargo area. I'll sleep there. I don't know. I kind of want to call it the trailer trash camper van. Or just a basic camper van. I don't know. But essentially, yeah, this is what I take for the gas Transit. I will fix this. I will fix this. I don't know how I've never noticed it until now. Next up though, the current gen Ranger Raptor. With the new generation, we did finally get the Ranger Raptor in the US. Yeah. So this one has the 3-liter EcoBoost V6, 10-speed automatic, 4-wheel drive, coming at $60,240. And I do think this thing is just really bad at. Definitely a more usable Raptor than the F-150. Also just about as fast because of the fact that it trades off the power for the lower weight. I say that, but Ford actually offers a factory tune now to make this thing faster than the F-150 Raptor, but yeah. I do think this thing is really badass, though. I think if I were to get a new Ford Raptor of some kind, it would be this. As much as I'm not a huge fan of the orange on the inside, this thing is still just like a really badass Ranger. And next up, another kind of badass, we get to the 2025 Ford Maverick Lobo. This is the little Maverick truck. So this is a 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder, same one you find in every non-hybrid Maverick, with a 7-speed automatic, and all-wheel drive, coming in at $40,035. That automatic is a little bit mistaken a lot of times. A lot of people say it's the same transmission from the Focus ST over in Europe. It is not. It is the GM designed 9-speed automatic transmission. Ford uses it as an 8-speed automatic because they rip out fourth gear. They swear that it's more efficient. I don't believe them, because that still leaves second gear and third gear being really close together. So you're essentially taking the GM 9-speed and doing a shift from second to fifth. And it really revs out second. I forgot what other gear they removed from the 7-speed here. Oh, I forgot what auto gear they removed from this transmission to make it 7-speed, but yeah, a lot of people mistake this for the Focus ST's transmission. No, that is a DCT. This is a regular torque converter automatic. But anyways, I really love the Maverick logo here. This one I went fully blacked out on it, so just the black paint, black wheels. You only get the Maverick with black wheels, but I did still go with the turbofan looking wheels instead of the whatever other wheels they offer for the Lobo. I feel like the turbofan is really the way a lot of people are going with these. But yeah, I love the Maverick, just this little street truck, and it's really cool. It's really freaking cool. Still with the Maverick here, we have the pre-facelift Maverick, the 2024 Ford Maverick XLT FX4. Again, 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder, although this was actually more powerful at the time. With, like I said, the 8-speed automatic, which is the GM 9-speed with an extra gear removed. And this was only $35,510. Again, really like this little truck. It's just this really cool little truck. I'm really surprised that Ram and GM haven't really stepped into this category yet, because this is a neat little truck. Next up, another F-150, the 2025 Ford F-150 XL. This one is the regular cab with the, kind of mid-sized bed configuration, the shortest F-150 you can get, the stubby. With the 5-liter V8, and it is a rear-wheel drive, coming in at $43,250. Now, this is an interesting one, because essentially this is a configuration that people would get when they plan to, put different wheels on it, lower it, make a street truck configuration, or make like a street truck. I'd probably get different wheels for it, because I think the XL's wheels here are hideous. Not hideous, but they're just not great. But I probably wouldn't lower it and all that. I'd probably leave it stock height, stock a lot of things. But the thing I find interesting about this a lot here is that Ford is almost kind of encouraging it with this configuration, because this configuration of F-150 is, now you might think this is like a base fleet spec, and it still kind of is, but when you get this with the long bed, you still have the option of the base 2.7 liter V6, the higher option 3.5 liter V6. This shorter bed one you can now only get with the V8. This is an uncommon configuration, trying to find a regular cab, shorter bed, full-size pickup truck with the V8. It's a really uncommon configuration. It almost seems like to me, it almost seems like Ford's ready to get rid of this configuration, but they're still keeping it around with the V8 for people who want to make that kind of street truck. It feels like that's why Ford is keeping it around, because I don't see any other reason for only having the V8 in this, unless my other idea for that is also maybe a fuck you to GM. Because people begged Chevy to bring back this configuration for the Silverado, and they did, and they made it so you can only get the 4-cylinder in it. So I almost feel like this is a fuck you towards that. Like, you did it wrong, here's how to do it. As much as I love that 4-cylinder. But, yeah, essentially this is just a short V8 F-150. Next up, the previous generation Super Duties is the 2022 Ford F-250 Super Duty Lariat. Quite a bit nicer than that other one. Like, this one is the Super Cab with the slightly shorter bed, and the bigger V8, the 7.3 liter V8. Once again, the gas engine, not the diesel. And this one is 4-wheel drive at $63,740. Oh, that's really been a yawn. I do still quite like this truck here. This is obviously a bit fancier of an F-250 than the newer one, than what I take of the newer one, but I do still quite like this. I also love how Ford tried to integrate the bigger screen from the F-150, from the newer gen F-150 that was already out doing this. I think they actually made it look good, which is surprising because this was not made for it. But yeah, fancy Super Duty. It feels kind of weird that the newer one I take a lower trim, but then the older one I take a higher trim. It almost feels like I'm saying I like the older one better, but I don't really. I do still really like this though. Okay, next up, the 2023 Ford F-150 Raptor. I know I've said that the generation before this I like better, but I do still really, really like this one as well. This one is the, crew cab with the shoulder bed, the only configuration you can get the F-150 Raptor in now. Same 3.5 liter EcoBoost V6 and everything, except now it's like 75,855. It went up a lot. But yeah, I still think this is an awesome, badass truck. It's really cool. Next up we have another 2023 F-150 Raptor though, except this is the R. This was Ford's answer to the Ram TRX. Since it has a supercharged 5.2 liter V8, essentially the GT500 engine, except retuned for a pickup truck. Yeah, this one's 6 figures. This one is 6 figures, but I think the price totally makes sense with everything you get here. You get like a top spec F-150 turned into the Raptor, and then with this engine. Yeah. Quite honestly, I'd rather have the V6, in my opinion, but that's just me. This thing is still fucking awesome, and I really love the fact that Ford actually did go after Ram TRX here. But yeah, next up, way less powerful, the Ford Transit Connect XL passenger wagon. This is the long wheelbase Transit Connect. Part of me kind of wishes I could go back and do a configuration of the short wheelbase cargo, but it's a bit late. This is a 2-liter 4-cylinder, 8-speed automatic, and is front-wheel drive. It is $40,140, and I kind of debated if I should put this in here or if I should put this in a cars and minivan section, because this thing kind of did compete with minivans. I say compete, this thing isn't really good competition for those. But essentially this is the closest thing that Ford offered to a minivan, but this thing at the end of the day is still a passenger commercial van. It kind of falls into the same realm with the Mercedes Metris, where practically it's a minivan, but it doesn't feel like a minivan. It still does feel like this commercial van, so that's why I did still place it here. the the but essentially I um but um but yeah, the Transit Connect here, I think it's a neat little van, but especially the passenger wagon one here, it kind of makes sense why it's not around anymore. I do wish the cargo one was still around. I swear I see a bunch of them. Um, but yeah, this thing was just an interesting case because apart from using it as a taxi, I think someone would have to be very brand loyal to go for the passenger version of the Transit Connect here rather than a proper minivan. Because, like I said, practicality wise, this thing is a minivan. Or has the same practicality as a minivan, but worse in every aspect. Not trying to hate on the Transit Connect 2. In fact, I wish I could go back and do a Transit Connect cargo configuration because I feel like I just made the shittiest configuration of the Transit Connect. Um, and last up with these, the 2025 Ford F450 Super Duty XL. Um, this one I feel like I'd only go with if I was actually gonna haul stuff. This is a regular cab 8 foot bed with the 6.7 liter V8 turbo diesel. You have to get the diesel. You have to get the diesel if you're gonna go all the way up to the 450. Um, basically, like just interesting thing really. Um, but yeah, just big capable hauler. Essentially, that's what this is. Um, and yeah, that's about it. And I think that is about all that I'm gonna do this for today. We got a couple of small sections, one big section. Um, so yeah. I hope you did enjoy these. I hope you did enjoy this. I do plan on doing more of these. And, yeah, just, I'm going.